kind of the full director's cut Blu-ray version. And so drill through was really the way that I kind of built the stories on those reports to. Whoop.
I think it's on my side. Keep going.
I'm starting. Let me sorry, Chris, I was just getting the YouTube chat echoing through. So I've turned the YouTube chat off. So if there's questions that come up, if you could just kind of interrupt me and let me know that.
Of course.
Yeah, so basically on the drill through, what I found was that it was really the way that I could tell multiple stories in the same report and really leave it to the audience, the particular viewer, as kind of a choose your own adventure about how deep they wanted to go in the reports. And what I found was that kind of over the years, drill through really evolved in a pretty dramatic way. And it started off really limited, kind of with a good idea, but really limited implementation. And as we've progressed through the kind of interface changes in Power BI, and particularly with buttons and multi-stage buttons and the conditional formatting elements and some of the other UX improvements in Power BI, drill through has really been a huge beneficiary of that. And so what I've done is I put together 5 kind of separate use cases of probably increasing difficulty. The first one is just kind of drill through indicators, and it's really kind of a timeline of how we inform the viewer of drill through and kind of how that's changed in Power BI over the years. The second one is how do you drill through on elements where there isn't a drill through option? And this again has changed, the technique on this has changed pretty dramatically recently for the better. And I'll show you that, but the new card visual plays a big role in that. Similarly, on the third one, when is drill through not a drill through? That's one that I kind of played around with when the new card visual came out. And this will give you some alternatives to drill through that to the user will look like a drill through. And there's some good reasons why you might want to use that instead of drill through. The other thing is drill through works great on not just things you can slice, but images as well. You can drill through on cards, you can drill through on images, you can drill through on maps. And so what I wanted to do in cases 4 and 5 were take some kind of non-traditional contexts of drilling through and show you some of the more complex cases for drill through. In terms of case number 4, drilling through on images, conditionally using DAX and some conditional formatting. And then case number 5 is a custom visual that I love. It's James Dale's icon map. And it is, in my view, the absolute far and away best mapping application in Power BI. And he has some really great drill through options there that I want to show you. So I want to jump right in, but also wanted to just let folks know that the way I like to do these is as a discussion rather than me just talking for half an hour straight. And so if there are questions that come up on my use cases or questions that come up on use cases that you've got for drill through, feel free to just chime in, and we can just kind of have that discussion without holding those to the end. So any questions before we jump in? Okay. Well, this is a really simple one. This case 1 drill through indicators, and this is how, when about 5 years ago when I started with Power BI, this is how drill through was implemented. It was the only way to implement drill through at that point, and it was through the tooltips. And so what you did was you would kind of hover over a selection on a table or a chart, and it would say right click to drill through. And this was, even though the drill through mechanism itself worked well, this was a real problem because users would always come back and say, hey, I remember you showed me how to drill through on this, but I can't remember where I find that or how I actually access the detail page in the drill through. And so one of the things before I get going on this is just kind of level set in terms of what drill through is and kind of how you set it up. And it's really, really quite simple, which is you've got typically a front page, which has more overview level data, lower granularity. And then you've got typically a detail page that filters from the overview page into kind of a greater level of detail. And so in this case, basically the way you set it up is just on the detail page, there is a field well at the bottom, and you just basically the field that you're going to be linking to kind of make the connection between the overview page and the drill through page, you just drop that into the field well. And in this case, we're going to be using state name. And so if we go to tooltip, so this is the way it used to work, which is that you would mouse over, it would say right click to drill through. You would right click and then drill through, and then you would pick state detail on the drill through page, and it would take the state you'd selected, in this case New Jersey, and then drill through down into the details page. And the mechanics of that are fine, that in terms of you're filtering the information you want to filter into the page, the destination details page that you want. But the interface experience is really bad on that. As I say, users were constantly forgetting where the drill through was. And in some cases, they wouldn't even know that the drill through existed, because unless you've either been trained on the report or you happen to mouse over one of the state bars in this, there's no evidence of drill through in this chart. So the next thing that happened was we went from the traditional tooltip to the modern visual tooltip. And so if we go to options and settings, then we go to options, and if we go to report settings under current file, and then we turn on the modern visual tooltip. And I always recommend turning these on. I think they look better. They capture the theme, the color theme of your report, and they also have the drill through and drill down and drill up capabilities that are much improved from the original tooltip. So you'll see here now what we've got is you still have to mouse over, but as soon as you mouse over, instead of just saying, right click to drill through, it will actually give you options to drill down and to drill through. And so right from the tooltip, you can drill down into the state detail. So that's a significantly better experience, I think, than the old, just right click to drill through. But it still doesn't solve the problem of identifying that drill through is an option. And so what came about after that was, and I can't remember exactly when, Chris might know the timeline better than I do, but the multi-state buttons, when there was a big update, I want to say a couple of years ago, where they added a whole bunch of features in terms of icons, text, formatting options, and the multi-state nature of the buttons. And I'll show you here what that looks like. And so what we've got here is we've got a multi-state button. And if we look at the action here, you can see it's a drill through button that goes to state detail. And if we go to style, what you'll see is there are four states to every button. There's the default state, there is the on hover state, the on press state, and the disabled state. And the first three make good sense. I always knew what those did. But the disabled, for a long time, I didn't have a sense of what qualifies as disabled on a button. And so really the disabled is set up specifically for this function in drill through. So what we've got here is we've actually got a drill through button that is in a disabled state right now. Because we don't have a single state selected to drill through, in that disabled state, this is what we've got it set up to do. So if we go to style and then disabled, what we'll see is please select a state to drill through. And then if we scroll down, we've got the targeting icon, and we've got the red color fill. And so if we look at the other states, what we'll see is we'll see a very different button. And we'll see, like, let's say for default, what we'll see is click to drill through, and then a green fill and a different icon. Yeah, custom icon. So the custom icon is a drill.png. And so what we can do here is if we click on, say, North Carolina, it changes from the disabled state to the drill through state. And now what we can do is just click the drill through, and we get to the state detail page. And that really solves the problem that we had on both of the tooltip drill throughs, which is that it wasn't clear to the viewer that the drill through existed, and it wasn't necessarily clear what they had to do. So in this case, what you can do is really prompt through that disabled state of the button. You can prompt the user to kind of execute through the drill through stages. And I think that is really a huge improvement. And so if you take away kind of nothing more than that, I think that is a big leap forward for drill through in kind of the UX for users. So that's the first case. Now the second case is one.
Brian, that is straight up amazing. I absolutely love that. I've never seen the deactive used in a way that is beneficial, and like, this is fantastic. I'm going to play with this tonight.
Yeah, for the longest time, I didn't know what that disabled state was for. And this is, and there may be other uses for it, but basically this is what I use it for, which is to signal to the user that you haven't met the conditions for drill through. And there's all kinds of, in terms of, the people who are really great at visualization, the Alex Badu's and the Gustavs and the Armands, they can put together, gorgeous looking, buttons and interface design that changes with each of the button states. And so, really that 4-state button has just been a huge improvement, and it really, I think, has changed the nature of drill through. So yeah, definitely something, if you hadn't seen this before, this is a really great one to incorporate in any reports that you use drill through for. And
Todd is asking if those are custom icons. How did you get those icons in there?
yeah, they are. And what I do is I use a site called Flat Icon, which I think has like currently almost 4 million icons. And I subscribe, but I think at least a couple of million of those icons are free. And it's a great site in that it's got a huge array of a huge array of icons, that you can select. And the other thing that's really nice is it's got a nice icon editor. And so if this were like a black background and we wanted white icons, we could just easily change that. Another one that I know Armand recommends, Armand van Amersfoort, is one called the Noun Project. Those are kind of the two big ones, two big repositories that I've used. I know there are other ones. For those who are active on LinkedIn, Kavita Behera a while back did a roundup of all the custom icon sites, all the big ones that are used for Power BI, and so I can pull that up if anybody's interested, later. But yeah, these are customs, and if you go to like Target, Drill, there are literally hundreds of choices, almost too many choices on the flat icon site.
100% agreed, sir.
Hey, Brian, quick question.
Yeah.
Maybe a comment, but I imagine this is a lot nicer for also the mobile view. So if users are using the mobile app, that it actually it would indicate to them that there's a drill through. They can just click it.
And I think now with the new mobile, I haven't got it designed for mobile, but yeah, you definitely can get the multi-state buttons prominent and working well for a mobile design.
Awesome.
Okay, any other questions on this one? All right, so the next one I wanted to show is this is quite an interesting case, and this is one that I kind of stole the technique from Carlos Barboza. And if you've seen his meme report, it's probably my favorite Power BI report of all time, and he's got a whole sequence of visualization tips and tricks that he kind of presents in meme form, and this is one of the best ones, I think. So this is kind of your typical spaghetti line chart, and one of the ways we can fix this is by going through small multiples. But there's a way I like that Carlos does, I like even better than using small multiples. And basically what he does is he kind of works at, and this is, hopefully this is going to change in the revamp that Miguel Myers is leading, because it's still crazy to me that you can't, in just a direct conditional formatting way, change the line color in a line chart. So there's a huge amount of DAX and data modeling that goes into fixing this way, where you basically take and through a slicer, you change the all of the non-selected lines to gray and the selected line to kind of a highlight color, in this case orange. And the thing about this is that the way it works on the tooltips and the way you have to work it in order to make this approach work from a visualization standpoint is it doesn't allow you to filter down to a single country in the visual. And so if you look here in the tooltip, it does not give you a drill through option. And so the question is, can we drill through on this line chart, even though there's not a drill through option on the chart? And the answer is absolutely, that there's always an approach you can take. And so what I've done here is I've got another version of this chart. And if you look, we've now got the ability to drill through into the country detail. And I'll show you how this works. That basically all we do, and the new card visual has made this a lot easier than it used to be. So basically all we've got is
Hey, Brian, quick
the
question. What was
yeah,
Carlos B's last name?
Barboza.
Barbosa? Okay, thank you.
He's a new MVP this year and an absolute dynamo in terms of data visualization. So, really for those of you who are interested in, kind of really advanced creative data visualizations, he is one of the best around. So highly recommend following him on LinkedIn, and he's got a really nice blog and YouTube channel that he goes through a lot of these advanced visualization techniques. So what we've got here is we've got the visual that we had in the previous slide, but what I've done is I've overlaid a transparent card over the top of it. And that card, because we can drill through on cards, what we're doing is basically just almost using that card as kind of a clear plexiglass sheet over the visual that gives us a base to drill through where we didn't have that before. And so what we've got is we've got the card, and then we've used selected country, which is just a simple selected value measure. And we've used that. If we go to our country detail and we look in the field well, that is the link that we're using between the overview page and the detail page. So what it's doing is it's pulling that country off of the slicer, and then through that that transparent card sitting over the top, it is creating a drill through using that country selection into the country detail page. And the thing that's really nice about the new card, and it just really amazes me, kind of how forward thinking they were in this, because the way this used to work was when you had the old card, you couldn't shut off both the label and the value. So what you had to do, and I want to show you this just in case you run into this in another situation, which is that you had to create a transparent measure. So in this case, we have a 6-character hex code, and then the last two characters after the 6-digit hex code are the transparency mask. And what this is telling it is, this is saying I want complete transparency. So whatever this color is, make it 100% transparent. And you can, if you put a 10 here, it'll be 10%. 50 will be 50%. And so what you used to have to do was you used to have to put a card on top and then set all the elements of that card equal to transparent. But the nice thing about the new card is if we go into, just move this out of the way. If we go into the preferences and then we go into card, what you can see is we've got okay, it's here for call out. So we've turned off the values. So this is what on the old card, this is what it would show the values and the label. And so you used to have to set these to transparent, but now what you can do is you can just click all the elements of the card off. You can just turn them off. You don't have to mess with the transparent. You just turn the boundary off. You turn the fill off, set everything to fully transparent. And then what you've got is basically just a platform for the drill through. And the other thing we could do if we wanted to, we could certainly just put a multi-state button with an icon up here on top of the chart like we did for the first case. But here I just wanted to show, kind
Dancing
of
Pandas don't sell CRM.
the ability to put
Ads on LinkedIn
that clear
do.
mask over the visual and then use the drill through on that. So there's no reason why you couldn't do both. Kind of giving the user two paths to get to that country detail. So that is that is, I think, everything I wanted to show on drilling through without a drill through option. So any questions on that one?
The one thing with the transparent overlay, it appears to lose the ability when you hover over a data point in the line chart to show you what the exact number of that data point is.
Yes. Yes. And so it does do that. There's a talk I gave a while back on advanced conditional formatting where I showed a way where you can basically overlay two versions of a chart and then mask part of that second overlay with a card visual. So you can get kind of a mixed view that that does allow the tooltip visualization, and then would use, for example, the bottom part of the visualization would still give you the drill through capability. So there's ways to expose that tooltip capability. But yeah, generally speaking, you're right that you do lose that functionality. But what you can often do is mimic the table that you would show in the tooltip in the country detail on the drill through. So we could certainly in this case have a country detail that showed the progression over time with an active tooltip in the drill through. So it's just it's one of those things that if the keeping the primary visual open for tooltip, if that's really important, then definitely go with the multi-state button. I just wanted to kind of show this as another option.
It's a great alternative. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions on that one?
The comment online was that this is brilliant.
Oh, I'm glad people are finding it useful. That I've got some other ones that I think you'll enjoy that are one in particular that I find really kind of fascinating in the way it all pieces together. But let me show another one, which is, and this is sometimes a good one where if drill through for some reason is not working as hoped. And so, for example, when the new card visual came out, this was in preview mode, and the drill through was kind of wonky on the cards to begin with. It's all been fixed, but when I built this kind of the day the new card visual came out, I couldn't get the drill through to work in exactly the way I wanted it to. So what you can do if you're ever in a situation where you want a drill through capability, but the drill through isn't performing in the way you'd hoped, is you've got another option that to the user looks exactly like drill through, and that's page navigation. That if you think about what drill through is drill through is really just a directed page navigation with async slicers. And so that's exactly what I've done here, which is it kind of talks about drill through, but so here, I moved the this around. Let me just move these. So what this does is this gives the user the ability to turn the drill through targeting on and off. And this is just a simple bookmark toggle with custom buttons. And so these are only icon buttons. These are if we look on the action here, these are page navigation buttons that go to the state detail. And if we were to look at the sync slicers, what we would see is is we would see, in this case, yeah, what we've got is we've got a slicer tucked away kind of in a corner of the page that you can't even see. And that here what we've got is we've got it syncing between the cards page and the state detail page. And it's visible and it's active. And so what this does is when you turn on the targeting and you select, say, Virginia 2020, and you go through one of these two buttons, what it'll do is it'll basically do what to the user looks exactly like a drill through. And that is just taking those filter selections, advancing to the detail page and carrying those forward. And what you could even do in this case is you could have another level drill down where you could drill down from the map into another level of detail. And so you can kind of chain these together. But if we go back on the button, that you'll see that it operates in the exact same flow as a drill through. And I just wanted to highlight this because there are just occasionally times when either drill through isn't available or drill through isn't working the way you want it to. That page navigation serves as a great alternative. And I just want to show that kind of from the viewer standpoint, they're indistinguishable. So any questions on that one?
So the two
Okay.
boxes on the right are buttons, or they're the card visual?
Icons.
I'm sorry, I was having a hard time hearing that question.
The two boxes on the right, those are icons? Like what are they?
These boxes?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are just targeting icons. Those are custom buttons with only an icon as
Got it.
fill. So they're transparent background, no text, and then custom icon.
So as soon as you click on the icon, it whisks you over to the other page.
Yes.
Okay.
But then what's nice is that when you've got the slider turned off, you can click all you want here, and it's not gonna do anything. So you can make the drill through active or inactive. So yep.
I have to say I really prefer the drill into another page, just because it gives you more overall control of what you're doing on that page. So that's my preference.
What do you mean drill into another page, Chris?
Sorry, where you link into another page, not the drill through, not or
Page navigation.
yeah, page navigation. I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, in some sense, they're really. I mean, in this case, it's the exact same structure. That I've got the overview page and then the detail page, and the only difference is kind of the way I'm getting there, which is in this one it's through the page navigation with the sync slicers taking the place of the drill through field well, but the structure itself is really identical to what we saw in the first one, which is just the overview and the detail page. So that navigation really hasn't changed at all. Okay, so here's this one. This is one of my favorites, and this is one I was playing around with a while back. And I'll just show you what the action on this one is. It's got kind of a nice kind of active feel to the mouse over. And what I've got here is the ability to select a team. This is from last year's NBA season. And when we select, if you watch the button up here, once we select the team, it'll say drill through to, and then the name of the team that you've selected. And so we've got some conditional, some DAX conditional text formatting going on. And then if we click through the button, this is an interesting case, because what we've got here is we've actually got this button controlled by a DAX conditional format statement. And so when we click through the Denver, what we see here is it goes to the Western Conference. But if we were to go back and click on, say, the Celtics, who play in the Eastern Conference, and we click through, that'll take us to the Eastern standings, and it'll highlight the team conditionally that we selected. And so I think this gives a really nice flow of selection, kind of direction through through dynamic prompting on the text, and then highlighting on the conditional formatting. So this one's got a fair amount to it, and I want to walk through the mechanics of this one. So what this does is this uses a custom visual called I think it's called icon grid, image grid, and it's a free custom visual. And what it does, one of the things I like about it is you can use it both as image URLs that go externally, or image URLs that you code into base64 and keep internal to the Power BI report. So I guess it was about a year and a half ago, Microsoft made a decision that they thought the external image links represented potentially a security risk, and they weren't going to certify any custom visuals with that external image link. And so that kind of, for me at least, that broke a bunch of visuals that were certified, and then all of a sudden I woke up the next day and they weren't. So the nice thing about this approach is this can handle either the external image URLs, which I use a site called ImageBB, or what you can do is you can go into external tools, and what I've got is a link to this base64 encoder. And what you can do is you can take and drop all of your images. And so if we were to go like into our icons folder and say, for example, we've got a Python icon, and I can move this over on the monitor. So this is what that icon looks like. And what we can do is we can take and drop that into the base64 conversion. And if we look at the code here, what we can do is we can copy this base64 code into a measure. And that now will, if we set that measure equal to an image URL type, that will be readable by the new card visual, by the table visual, and we can keep all of our images internal to the Power BI report. But in this case, what I did is I did them through ImageBB, and this is a site I really like that hosts images. And the thing I like about it in particular is it has a really nice so here are the images from the previous case that we talked about, and it's got a really nice capability. And here are the team icons to create really short, directly accessible image links, and then to bring those right into Power Query. And so that's what I've done here. And if we go into Power Query, what we'll see is kind of how the data is set up on this. If we go to the Teams file, yeah, what we've got here in the logo URL is that https i.bb.co, and then each of the individual team icons that we've now got as an image link. And so what we can do here is we've got a data model set up that uses Drillthrough on that image URL. And so we've got the teams data that gets split in the Eastern and Western Conference. And then what we can do is, if we go back and look at our DAX measures, what this does is this is the logic that is tied to the drill through button. So if the selected value of the conference is Eastern, then it goes to the Eastern page. And if it's Western, if it's not Eastern, it goes to the Western page. And so what we do is we take in the action here, and under destination, you click on conditional formatting, and through field value, we can tie that button to that DAX statement. And so through that drill through button, we can route our path depending on whether the team is Eastern or Western Conference. You could certainly do this if you had sales regions or branches in an organization, and you're really not limited in any way, shape, or form, except by kind of the complexity of the interface that you want to manage in terms of how many different routes you can take through the drill through. That you can manage that as an if statement. If you've got a lot of different paths, you can manage as a switch true. Anything you can specify in DAX down to a given single scalar, you can route through a conditional drill through. So that is, I think that's a really neat construct in the sense that it really helps put the information kind of into the proper context. And so this kind of being a relatively trivial case, where we're just kind of going Eastern Western Conference for sports, but you can think of a lot of business cases where this would be helpful. And one of the things I've actually done in an HR report is been able to drill through on employee pictures. So you can click on a picture and then drill through into the employee's information. So that's kind
Sales
of a
teams
practical.
love that. Love that. Sales teams, oh, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, and so sales it's great for. As I say, HR is a really good use. Security, is another one, kind of front desk management. So that's a drill through construct I really like. Any questions on that one?
I don't see any in the chats. Anything from in the office?
Brian, I just, again, I love the brushing or the highlighting technique. So, because oftentimes users may want to drill down to one specific data point, but they also want to see it in comparison to the other data points. So seeing like the bowls versus the rest in their conference is fantastic. Just like the line chart, gray to orange that you showed earlier. A number is just a number, but being able to see it in comparison to what your how their performance is compared to their peers or what have you. That's always important.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
appreciate it.
And the nice thing about it is, you know, that you can, with the way the drill through filters work, is you can carry that through and then apply the conditional formatting on the back end. And I think that's another thing that works, you know, works really well. So yeah, that comparison is really valuable. And I'll show you in the next one coming up, you know, kind of a similar way to do comparison through maps. And this one's got some complexity to it. This one took me a bit to put together, but interesting use case, I think. And this is so I live in Washington, D.C., and this is some data I had on median house prices in DC for 2020 through 2021. And what I did is I put this into a custom choropleth map using James Dale's icon map. And this is, I don't know if anybody there is an icon map user, but this thing just knocks me out. That he is, you know, kind of one guy working on his own has put together, I think, a far better map visual than Microsoft has ever been able to implement in Power BI. And he's you know, he's a multi-year MVP, and the things this visual can do are just absolutely knockout. That you know, in terms of being able to use custom map layers, you can actually link this up with the Mapbox API, and you can put custom GeoJSON layers underneath. You've got the ability to change the backgrounds with, you know, kind of fully justified. So here this is actually a Mapbox layer that I'm using now. He's also got overlays in terms of standard shipping overlays. Let me show you that. So he's got shipping, he's got roads, he's got airlines. I mean, he is just built this thing out to the hilt. And yeah, so there's a daylight terminator that'll track time. There's an open sea map, an open rail map, which, oh, here we go. Okay, so this is actually, this is really interesting. This is tracking this is amazing. I've never done this before. This is tracking the DC Metro system. So this is showing the red line, the green line, the yellow line, the new purple line. This is amazing. That this is nothing that I put into this map. This is all built into the auxiliary layers that James has got in this. So you can just kind of get a sense of the capabilities and complexity of this. But what I've done here is I basically took and built out a custom choropleth map where I went out to the DC government open source site where they have boundary files for zip codes, and then took those boundary files, converted those into what's called well-known text, and then fed the well-known text as WKT into the data file. And then from that WKT data file, what Icon Map lets you do is basically in I just need to find okay, I believe it's under objects. Yeah. So under here, under objects, what you've got is you've got an image / WKT, and in the in the conditional formatting, what you can do is you can take and feed in a lookup value. So basically all we've got here is in the map, it's basically taking and selecting the zip code, going to the data file, and then finding the WKT file associated with that zip code. And so what we've got is the ability to actually select these zip code areas as kind of selectable objects on the map. And what we can do once we do that is we can actually drill through into a details page. And I haven't really built out this details page in in kind of anything other than just kind of demo mode. But what we've got is the ability, it picks up the zip code. DC is divided into a series of wards. I've got the neighborhoods in each ward, the median sales price, the number of sales for that year. And so what we've got is basically the ability to take any area, and as long as you've got a shapefile that you can convert into that WKT format, you can basically use that map structure as a basis for a drill through. And I think that's pretty spectacular. And he's done some, if you go to the Icon Map site, James has done some really remarkable things where he's got a map of London, and he's got neighborhoods where he's got all the buildings as individual WKT objects, and you can actually drill through into the details on a building by building basis. There's actually one where you can drill through into information about the trees and parks. I mean, the level of detail that you can obtain in this is really remarkable. And so wanted to show that. That's probably for those who haven't played around with WKT, that may be a little bit of a whirlwind. And we can talk if there are questions about kind of how to do the conversions, because one of the things you have to watch for is when you download a WKT or a KML shapefile, oftentimes those are really high resolution. And so what you're going to get is you're going to get all these really tight, turns and kind of jagged edges. And what that's going to do is that is going to take up a lot of space in your Power Query cell. And Power Query has a limit of just about 32,000 characters in a given cell. And so what we find is that for WKT boundary files, particularly when you get into countries, like Canada or a country like China, or I think the Philippines, given the number of islands and the number of coastal boundaries, those countries will dramatically overrun the Power Query limit. So there's some techniques you can use that Chris Webb wrote about a couple of years ago to kind of cheat the Power Query limit by basically splitting the WKT file into a bunch of parts and then stitching it back together in DAX. But there are ways. What I did here is to take that shapefile, and there's an online tool called Map Shaper that lets you dramatically simplify the shapes, so that in this case we don't really need that kind of huge high resolution. All we need is kind of the general shape of the zip code area, and in doing that we can keep it within that 30,000 limit. So as I say, this one's a bit more involved, but I just wanted to kind of show really the kind of the outer edges of what you can do with drill through and some of the the really top custom visuals for Power BI.
Well, and if we think about some of these niche use cases, like in large factories or in large warehouses where you're trying to really track parts and making sure that you're building the most efficient products. Or if you look at even what you're doing here, the real estate market, that being able to stitch that all together could be incredibly useful for a number of very large and companies with deep pockets, right?
Yeah, your point about factories and warehouses. The one thing I didn't show is one, and he's got a number of YouTube videos that are really worth watching. A guy named Kenny Geskins has put together a custom visual that is 3D, and it lets you in Power BI kind of do a visual walkthrough of a warehouse, for example, and you can click on the item you want to see, and it'll show you physically on the shelves where that item is located. And you can use it for architectural plans, um, for storage areas, for floor plans, for warehouse, grocery store stocking. It's got some remarkable applications, and that really takes this whole thing, kind of to a literally another level of three dimensionality. And so the drill through capability in that is mind boggling.
So a question has come in from Mike Ford. He's wanted to know, are these available to download any place? Or I'm sorry, that wasn't from Mike. That was from Hermit Singh.
You mean these files?
Yeah.
I could certainly make them. So if you want, Chris, what I'll do is I'll send these to you after the talk, and you can just link them to your meetup page. But
Sure.
I'd be happy to do that, or I can put them into into GitHub, and send you the links for that so people can download them and play around with them. Yeah, sure.
That would be ideal. Thank you so much.
Happy to do that. So that's all I've got, and I think we're probably right at about the promised time. But I'm happy to answer any questions. I hope that's been helpful to you, and if nothing else, kind of sparked some thought in terms of kind of some of the non-traditional ways of using drill through, and some of the techniques you can use to manage it in different ways through your user experience. So I say hope that was helpful, and happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any more questions online through any of the streams. Scott, Leonard, any questions in the room?
No.
All right. Well, Brian, thank you so very much for taking time out of your day and taking time out of writing your book to come in and show us how this stuff works. I know I'm going to be rewatching this one over and over again because you use a few things I hadn't done before. So very excited about this.
Great. I'm glad to hear that was helpful, and really appreciate the invite, and enjoyed the opportunity to present. So thank you.
So I will ask one question. Hey, Brian, so you're writing a book on Power Query? This
Yes.
is Greg, by the way. Yeah, so is there a Enterprise M story? I mean, with all the tools we have to do ETL now, so with Python, and they've added this data wrangler thing, and they've added like a code spit thing, so you can kind of like, is that yanking your attention in terms of ETL, or that you're writing a book on M says you're still focusing your attention and time, that it's going to be a worthwhile investment of your time, that you're kind of saying something there.
Yeah, I still really believe M has a huge place in the landscape. I mean, if you think about the fact that 1 billion people around the world have M on their desktop and don't know it, and there really isn't. There's some great Power Query books, but each of those books, Gil Revive's book and Ken Poles' book, only have about a chapter on M. And, if you're looking, I get a lot of questions about, is there kind of a comprehensive deep dive equivalent to the definitive guide to DAX available for M? And, up until this point, there really hasn't been. And for me, what I see is with the way that, one of the things that I would say is kind of a specialty of mine is the interface between Power Query and Python and R. And I gave a talk at the Romania Power BI user group a couple of weeks ago called Analytics Godzilla, and it was combining M, Power Query, R, and ChatGPT code interpreter. And the things you can do with the combination of those four are just absolutely mind-blowing.
What do you call yourself at that point? Data scientist, data engineer, data analyst? What are you? You're just this crazy, you're Godzilla, because you're like a mashup. That's nuts. You've got all those tools, and then that tooling is coming to the people, right? I mean, is that's stuff that like ordinary people can do?
Yeah. And the thing that's amazing about it is there was an example I walked through where I showed how you can, regex is one of those things that regex is kind of a running joke in terms of how difficult it is. And, the joke is that, if you have a data problem and the solution is regex, now you have two data problems. But and that the plural of regex is regrets. But the interesting thing is ChatGPT and Code Interpreter does an amazing job writing regex. And so what you can do in the combination of those is you can write and validate your regex in AI. You can then build that AI result into Python or R, and then you can call that from within Power Query, and it is lights out good in terms of not only does it do the regex, but in this case, for example, I was parsing an Apache log file, and ChatGPT actually knew what the contents of that log file was. And so not only did it write the regex to parse the dirty data, but it actually knew how to name and organize the columns without me having to do any of that. And so, I really do think that from an analytics standpoint, M really still has tremendous relevance, and I think it's only going to become more relevant as AI gets better and better at writing M code. And I saw a huge leap from in my testing from GPT 3.5 to GPT 4 in terms of the level of sophistication of the M code programming and the accuracy. And I think that, rumor has it that OpenAI has finished training for GPT-5. And I suspect that is going to be the point at which AI can really start to write legitimately comparable M code to even the best M coders in the world.
So how writing your book, you wrote that post on LinkedIn with like your love affair with Obsidian, and so
Yes.
is that helping you stay organized with writing the book and keeping track of things? Because you whetted my appetite, so I downloaded it, and I think you're going to turn me into an acolyte there.
I hope so, because it is remarkable. I use it for the book every single day. And what I did is when I trained my Obsidian, when I trained GPT-4 on my Obsidian Vault, it ran I have about 700 of my posts and then a few hundred of other people's posts in that vault, and it ran every article against every other article and computed a relevancy score. So it now knows that data far better than I do, even though I wrote it all. And the ability it has to find relationships, and not only not only find relationships, but instantly locate any information from, 1,000 different posts in literally a one-word search, and then a one number relevancy score. It takes me no longer than 10 seconds to find anything in that file now. And so what I've been doing is, and I'm going to be writing about this soon, is I've been managing my ChatGPT conversations by copying those into the Obsidian Vault and then training GPT on its own conversations.
Wow, I'd love to see a session on that, man. That sounds super slick. Are you using any other tools in Obsidian like Notion or Sana or?
I have played with Notion, and the new one that I'm starting to experiment with is Open Interpreter. And you can actually, the thing that's neat about Open Interpreter is you can actually, it'll run either locally on Llama 2, each of the three kind of increasingly large parameter models for Llama 2, or you can run it through your OpenAI key to GPT-4. So you can use it either if you don't have a subscription to GPT-4, you can use it in lieu of that. Or if you do have it, what you can do is you can experiment and kind of compete ADA against Open Interpreter and see, kind of which one is better at, coding and visualization. So that's going to be a competition that I'm going to run pretty soon, hopefully later this month.
That's just amazing. It's a crazy age we're living in. You're really leading the way too, Brian.
It is, every day it's like, it is just remarkable, that, new tools and, new opportunities to use the tools we've been using in totally different ways just seem to open up on almost a daily basis. It is an incredible time we're living in.
Fabulous.
Well, this is just absolutely great, Brian. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share with us your knowledge. Got tons of people on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, all applauding you, and just great work here, Brian. Well done.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I hope folks find something of value in that. So, as always, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So if you run into any questions or issues you want to follow up, just feel free to shout at me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect and chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, everybody.
Talk to you later, everybody. Bye-bye. Baker Tilly Digital combines strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital.